Alright, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome back. It's me, Addy, again, and I hope you guys are doing alright. So Overwatch 2 has been out for just about 2 weeks now, and having played it pretty extensively both on and off stream, I thought I'd compile my thoughts about this game into a video for you folks. And I'm not just making this video for the sake of it, but rather because I love Overwatch. In fact, the first one is my favorite shooter of all time, which is definitely saying a lot, since I'm someone who personally doesn't enjoy multiplayer games all that much. Next to the bright and colorful design of the world, heroes, and lore of Overwatch, the main attraction of the game to me has always been the idea that you don't need to exclusively rely on your mechanical aim to be able to improve and climb the ranks. There's just so much variety when it comes to the heroes and their playstyles in this game besides just pointing and clicking heads, and that's the main reason why, as you can probably hint by the footage in this video, I am a Lucio one-trick. This is the most fun character I think I've ever played in any class-based video game, and I'm pretty sure I have close to 1,000 hours on him. I even grinded my ass off playing this hero, and this hero only pretty much just to get to Grandmaster rank in Overwatch 1, after which I took a very long break from the game. But at the end of the day, I love playing this hero due to the uniqueness of his kit, which mainly revolves around movement and timing as opposed to aiming, shooting, and getting kills. The latter of which I've never particularly been good at in games and have not been so interested in improving. That is the beauty of Overwatch. There's a unique set of abilities that each hero offers for every kind of player out there, and getting these heroes to synergize with one another and combine their various playstyles against the enemy team has always been the fun of the game for me. The first Overwatch consumed me for a long time, even to an unhealthy degree at a certain point a few years ago. I loved this game so much that I think it ended up being my first real experience with video game addiction. I played it close to its release until the day that its server shut down, which admittedly did fill me with great sadness, even though I knew Overwatch 2 would be coming out literally the next day. But that sadness never did truly leave me, unfortunately, even though the sequel is now out. And I'll touch more on that point shortly. But the big question I want to answer first is this: is Overwatch 2 a good game? And did it recapture the magic I felt with the first one? Quite simply put, the answer to that is yes. The gameplay itself of Overwatch 2 is very fun. I honestly don't think the game has been this fun to play in years. For a long time now, we've seen questionable metas come and go, and new heroes being released in poorly balanced states that even went so far as to turn players away from the game entirely. But here, the new 5v5 system, while chaotic, is surprisingly balanced and enjoyable for my experience. And it's really nice to see how certain roles and heroes who were previously cumbersome to play as are now exciting. I'm speaking of tanks, of course. Originally, these heroes could best be summed up as giant bullet sponges whose sole purpose was to shield their team and protect them from damage, but now they've essentially become juiced up DPS heroes who can contribute as much to getting kills as any regular damage hero. And even though I admittedly don't play a whole lot of tank myself, it did put a big ol' smile on my face to see that the notoriously fast queue times for the role are now significantly longer, given not only the fact that you can have only one of them on your team now, but more importantly, they're just really fun to play. Especially ones like Zarya and even Orisa, who by the way has been reworked from being one of the most boring heroes in Overwatch 1 to an incredibly fun powerhouse here. And I might be a little biased, right, about my enjoyment of this game because a lot of my mains besides Lucio, of course, are now S-tier levels of viable in this game's current meta, whereas for years they just weren't. And one of those heroes who I really freaking love playing is Genji, who I pretty much play as often as I do Lucio when I queue damage. I actually really enjoy this hero to the point where I made a couple of montage videos of me doing some cool stuff with him about a year ago now on this channel. But Genji is a hero who, for me, I struggle a long time to play, not only because he has an incredibly high skill ceiling, but also because of the various metas that had him countered very easily through things like stuns. But with the many hero changes that Overwatch 2 has brought to the table, both big and small, a lot of the abilities that used to counter him are no longer of much concern. Stuff like changing Doomfist from a 2-shot DPS into a tank, nerfing Brig's Shield Bash, and getting rid of Mei's Freeze from her primary fire are just a few of the many ways that I've had a significantly easier and more fun time playing one of my favorite heroes. And I want to be able to confidently say that this is a point that can be made to almost any hero in the game, really. Nobody seems grossly underpowered anymore from what I've seen, and the 3 new heroes, of which the new support Kiriko is the most fun in my opinion, mesh quite well with the current roster. Now, of course, my opinion of all of this stuff will definitely change over time since the nature of Overwatch has always been for its metas to evolve. But at this point in time, I'm having fun when it comes to hopping into a game of ranked, quick play, or whatever it is that I'm doing. But when I'm not doing those things, that's where that sadness I was talking about earlier starts to kick in. It really does hurt me to say this, but everything besides the gameplay of Overwatch 2 has been handled abysmally by Blizzard. This game feels less like an actual sequel and more like an Overwatch 1.1, or dare I say 0.9, with how backwards most of this game's systems seem to be. The route that Blizzard has taken here with this game has honestly perplexed me because they appear to have done away with the majority of the content that made the first Overwatch really good, while adding little to nothing to compensate for it here in Overwatch 2. To provide some examples, you can no longer earn medals during your games. There's no more concept of being on fire when you're doing really well. You can't see player cards at the end of each match to celebrate the accomplishments of your teammates. And oh yeah, there's also no more leveling or player portraits to show how dedicated you are to the game. Now, I understand that the reasoning behind removing these features that embellished the first one was to alleviate toxicity, but this logic honestly confuses me because if you're going to remove all these features which you say contributes to in-game toxicity, which let's be honest, none of them really do, then why do you have to go and then overhaul the scoreboard of Overwatch 2 to represent the stats that encourage so much toxicity, those being the number of kills and death that each player has accumulated? It's honestly baffling. And overall, the game is nowhere near as incentivizing to play as the first one. I'm a firm believer that one of the most important things about a video game is its progression system and how much it motivates a player to keep returning and playing. And sadly, Overwatch 2 feels like it has little to none of that compared to its predecessor. A big contributing factor to that is Blizzard's decision to get rid of levels. Without the ability to level up as you play, you already lose a big reason to keep returning to Overwatch. Yes, there is a new battle pass system that allows you to unlock cosmetics as you naturally play over time, but sadly, most of the items in the free battle pass are just laughable. And unless you spend some real money on this game to unlock the premium version of the pass, you really don't feel like you're earning much of anything at all for the amount of time and effort that you're putting into the game. But the part that really got to me personally about all this was how the competitive ranking system has been reworked. Now, instead of the traditional SR-based system of Overwatch 1, we now have division tiers within each rank, which adjust after every 7 wins or 20 losses. Now, the problem with this system is that while you work towards your 7 wins to see what new rank and or tier you're going to get, you actually have no way of knowing whether you'll be ranking up or down, if at all. At no point does the game make an effort to give you any useful information about your performance that could help you in determining whether you're climbing or deranking on the competitive ladder. So for a majority of this game's competitive mode, you are going to be left in the dark, which is really unfortunate. Now, I'm still going to be playing a good bit of ranked in this game, but I'd be lying if I told you that this new system didn't disincentivize me quite a bit. Overwatch 2 just feels like a game that is rife with small changes that were made for the sake of making changes and justifying a sequel. The only good changes were the hero-related ones that made the game more fun to play, but those still feel more like a large balance patch than actual sequel material. And all the game's other changes, like the ones I've mentioned that had largely to do with removing things rather than adding anything new, and also some of the other stuff like the downgrade in the game's user interface, in my opinion, and Blizzard's awful approach to monetization, all of these things just highlight the fact that this game may have taken one step forward, but several back. Besides the 6v6 of the first Overwatch, I miss almost everything else about it, and never in a million years did I think I'd be saying this, but yes, that includes the loot boxes as well. Blizzard have flubbed their approach to the free-to-play model and battle pass with this game so much that they've successfully managed to make us miss one of the worst industry practices in recent memory. But at least the first Overwatch had a decent loot box system that didn't force you to pay money at every turn and corner, unlike the older Call of Duty games. But here it's the complete opposite. They've taken the latest industry trend in live service games, those being battle passes in a free-to-play game, and have completely butchered their implementation. And the reason for that is very simple. It's because Blizzard's philosophy with this game has been to make it free to play, but at the expense of our enjoyment. If you don't pay a single dime in this game, you get nothing but a few sprays and common skins, a majority of which are from the first game. And I mean, sure, you could technically grind without paying any money to accrue more of the game's new in-game currency called Overwatch coins in order to then buy your favorite cosmetics from the shop area, but hey, there's a little thing called time who would like to have a word with you. Because let me put things into perspective here, right? To put things into perspective, it takes an hour and a half of playtime a day for 8 months to be able to get enough coins for a single legendary skin. So have fun getting any meaningful content out of this game without paying money. Now, if you don't care about any of the cosmetic stuff and are only here for the gameplay, I totally get you and I understand. In that regard, I really appreciate Blizzard going the free-to-play route with Overwatch 2 and making this game available for everyone to try out. I actually managed to get a friend of mine who'd never played the first one to finally get around to trying this and playing it with me, and that made me feel really happy. But I just think that to returning Overwatch 1 players who bought that game at full price, and for those of us who poured hours and hours into that game, this approach to monetization by Blizzard in Overwatch 2 is a total slap in the face and is not okay. We're essentially being made to spend money now on things that were previously available to us to grind naturally since we paid for their product. So to us, this is not a free game. What this really is a paid Battle Pass expansion that we are forced to endure, with content that has been stripped away from a game that we already paid for that we used to love. Now that on its own should tell you everything you need to know about Blizzard as a company right now. This is clearly a company that no longer exudes passion about their game and has put little to no effort into polishing what they've released. And it really shows that there's a complete lack of any of it when you consider the countless bugs that have plagued the game since its release, ranging from interface-related ones to broken hero abilities in-game. To name just a few examples, Bastion's ultimate is currently scuffed in the game and can pretty much be used an infinite number of times to devastate enemies. Blizzard had to remove him from the game to fix this, which was almost a week ago now, and he isn't even back yet at the time of this recording. And then you've got the smaller bugs like your friends list missing, your stats being deleted, not being able to see the option to upgrade your battle pass, and much more. There was even one point where around 80% of the hero roster was locked out for almost every single player, including myself, and this ended up requiring emergency server maintenance where the servers went down and we couldn't play for a while. And speaking of the servers, I don't think I even need to mention the disastrous launch of this game, which was basically a 20,000 person queue simulator that lasted more than a few days. I'll let that speak for itself. Now, I understand that a lot of these issues are going to be fixed, and some of them have even been patched out, right? And I get that every game launches with its fair share of bugs. But the issue here is that we're talking about Blizzard, a company known for their high degree of polish with the products they release. And sure, sometimes you can't always live up to your reputation, but the fact that they very unceremoniously shut down the Overwatch 1 servers to release what we've gotten here is so disheartening. Right now, you guys, I'm admittedly getting used to Overwatch 2, and with the exception of the breath of fresh air that is the gameplay, I am doing my best to enjoy everything else in this game as much as the first one, even though it's really hard. But that's the thing, right? I'm doing my best to enjoy all of this as much as that first game. And it saddens me that this sequel makes me miss a game that I'll never be able to play again. I'm hoping that a year from now when the PvE is out, which was originally the main appeal of this game, that my opinion towards this game changes drastically, and that I come to love Blizzard's approach to everything in this package, not just the gameplay itself. I really don't want this to be wishful thinking, and I will be optimistic, because like I said at the start of this video, I love Overwatch, man, and I want it to be as amazing as it can possibly be. My belief is that even when things that you're a fan of start to falter sometimes, you can't just give up hope that they're gonna get better. And what you should do, and the best you can do as a fan, is be vocal about their issues while coming from a place of genuine love. I'm not bashing on this game just for the sake of it, but rather because I care about this IP, and like I said, I want it to be as amazing as it can possibly be. Overall, Overwatch 2 is a really fun game to play, and Blizzard has a solid foundation here, but the toppings on that foundation are just very disappointing. There's just so much potential here, and I hope that Blizzard doesn't squander it and that this game only continues to attract more and more people as opposed to dying out quickly. But that's going to be all for my thoughts and impressions today, guys. Definitely give this game a download to see what you think of it yourselves, especially if you haven't played Overwatch before, right? Since it's now free to play, which, like I said, I'm honestly really glad that in the grand scheme of things, Blizzard decided to go that route. But happy gaming everyone, and until the next one, keep on keeping on.